we may well be looking at the scandal of the century. With the introduction of ULEZ, the ultra-low emission zone, and the charges that you have to pay and the fines that you have to pay if you're going in that zone without paying the fees, you may well have bought a vehicle with a specific emissions rate for that very reason. And if so, you might be part or a victim of the biggest scandal of the century. Let me explain. We will all be familiar with the standard emissions test when your vehicle goes for an MOT. They put it on a road roller and they stick some tube over the exhaust of the vehicle and they test the emissions. Over the last decades, vehicle manufacturers have obviously had a keen eye on the emissions that the vehicles they produce release into the atmosphere. But many of them now stand accused of fitting either software and or devices which will manipulate the readings given by that vehicle when they are going through testing. The way this allegedly works is that when the vehicle is on a test ramp of sorts, a rolling road as some of them call it in these garages, the vehicle will allegedly detect that it's in some sort of test state and put the vehicle into test mode, which will output lower emissions than it might otherwise do in normal driving conditions. Again, allegedly, this would lead to a lower emissions report on the readout from those MOT or any other kind of emissions testing, and thus giving a false and inaccurate reading. With some reports saying that vehicles would actually pump out up to 40 times the amount of emissions than it would during this test state. Now, obviously, anything that sounds like it's a bit of a cheat is obviously going to be against the law. So there's obviously an inherently fraudulent aspect to each of these claims. Now, as you will have gleaned from the thumbnail of this video, I am suing one of these manufacturers because I bought such a vehicle from a manufacturer that is accused of doing exactly this. The average payout for such a claim is in the thousands and could be anywhere between 25 and 75% of the vehicle's value or the vehicle's purchase price. Now, I've found a company that can help you to do exactly this, which is emissions.co.uk. If you've bought and owned a BMW, a Peugeot, a Mini, a Nissan, a Vauxhall, a Renault, a Citroën or a Mercedes anytime between 2008 and 2018, you might also be eligible to make a claim for between 25 and 75% of the vehicle's purchase price. It doesn't matter if you bought it in cash or on finance or leased it, all of these are eligible for a claim. And then many of you might ask about the prospects of such a claim succeeding. Well, of course, I can't give you legal advice on this channel, but what I can say is that over 100,000 claims have been settled and paid out in the UK so far alone, between them amounting to over £100 million in the UK alone. So as I say, if you've bought one of those vehicles during that time frame, check out the link in the description below because you might be eligible too. But what does this mean for ULEZ? Well, from my perspective, it throws the whole thing into complete disarray because ULEZ is obviously based on emissions throughout the London zones. But if the vehicle that you bought is putting out up to 40 times the emissions than it was supposed to, which you might have bought to comply with ULEZ, surely that brings every ULEZ charge and every ULEZ related fine into question. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you'll know that this is not the only scandal to hit the ULEZ scheme. In fact, back in August of this year, I reported on a tribunal case where the sister scheme, the low emission zone to the ULEZ, found that these signs were unlawful because they didn't warn drivers that they were going to be charged when entering the zone. Mr. Noel Wilcox received £11,500 in fines under the low emission zone for driving a truck to and from a depot in northwest London. However, he refused to pay those fines and took his case to a tribunal, arguing that these signs did not comply with the law, which requires that drivers must be warned if they are going to be charged when entering this zone. The tribunal ruled that they accepted these submissions, that if the signs are not authorised and do not provide adequate information of the charging scheme, then no charge or penalty is payable. So this now throws up a significant question as to how the emissions relate to the ULEZ zone as a whole. If indeed these emissions output by these vehicles are not what the specifications say they are, this potentially throws the whole system into chaos. So as I say, I like to share with you what I'm doing. I am currently personally suing one of these companies. I won't say too much about it because it's never good to say too much about your own case while it's ongoing. But also, as you know, I would never share with you an opportunity that isn't something that I would pursue myself. So do check out emissions.co.uk, linked in the description below, as you might well have a claim for this as well. You might well feel as cheated as I do if these claims turn out to be true and they have devices which are allegedly designed to give deceptive readings on these emissions, which throws the whole argument about emissions and the accuracy and the data into question. But thank you for watching. Please do like the video and subscribe to receive more content, and I shall see you next time.